Welcome to the Daily Beast Show, episode 120. We've got Linda Island here. We're going to be speaking about creating long-lasting business success, but it might not be what you think it is. We're going to be diving deep into the mindsets and the trials and tribulations that come along with that glory and that success. But Linda is a big believer in having the right mindset and achieving anything. And she even ran a 42-kilometer marathon with no practice or history of long distance running, which blew my mind when I first heard about it. And look, if you're wanting to really grow and have a long-lasting business, she's the one to speak to. But Linda, thanks for joining us. I'm looking forward to getting into a bit of a deep dive in your past and in your present and what's been going on.
Hey, Matt, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat to you today.
Yeah, awesome. So, man, let's start with that 42-kilometer run. How did that come about and what the hell?
Yeah. Good question. So my girlfriend and I were sitting at a cafe having hot chocolate, double whipped cream with marshmallows. And
Yeah.
I was coming up to my 30th birthday, and she was coming up to her 40th. And she said, we should run a marathon for our birthdays, for our milestone birthdays. And of course, it sounds like a great idea over a cup of hot chocolate.
Yeah.
And but she was really diligent and organized. And we both got a book that tells you how many Ks you have to run on which days to lead up to running the marathon. And she was really, really good and did everything she had to. And I think the most I did was a 5K run. And I had run 5Ks a lot in the past. Like I had run in the past, but never long distance. And I kept thinking, I really need to start. And then before I knew it, the marathon was there and I was running without any training. I lost 2 toenails,
Like fully.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
So it's really a mindset game running a marathon. It's like, because not at every stage, but especially I found the second half.
Yeah.
At every stage of the second half of that process, my body was screaming, stop.
Yeah.
So it really is a mind game running a marathon, especially with no training. But it goes to show what we're capable of. And I love that about life, like trying to stretch myself and challenge my mind and my mindset. I find that, really exciting. So.
Yeah, me too. I got to the point a bit earlier this year where every day I was getting up just seeking that space of discomfort, whether it was like a conversation or a call or an activity or whatever it was, but really finding that thing that made me sweat and just walking towards it. But it's a good habit to get into, I think.
It is, yeah. Not ever getting too comfortable. That's experiencing life, I think. When we get comfortable, stop stretching ourselves and having those experiences.
Yeah, like the female version of David Goggins.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a beast. That's what it reminded me of when I first heard him. I'm like, oh gosh, got a Goggins on the show.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Mindset's an amazing thing, Yeah.
It is, it really is. Well, what does he say? When you think that your body's completely shut off and done, you're only at 40%.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. When you really learn how to hack your body and hack your mind, what can become possible is, phenomenal. We're so much more capable, than we give ourselves credit. And especially kids. I've found since becoming a mother, children are so capable. So, yeah.
And I actually did a post the other day about be a baby, because when a baby wants to do something, when they see someone walk, they don't think if I'm going to do it or if I won't, if I'll fail, succeed, what's my backup plan. They don't think of any of that. They just see someone doing something and they want to try and do it. So they just get up and give it a crack until eventually they do it.
So true. You really observe that in children because they don't have the limitations that are on us. I guess as we get older, we kind of have more and more limitations, or we take on beliefs that we can't do things or things aren't possible. But they just, and if they've got,
because I know you're one of the busiest people I know, but at the same time as that, like you're retired in some senses of the word. So do you mind sharing a bit of your successes that you've made along the way and where you are right now in life and sort of what's got you here, so people can really understand where you're coming from as well, and then we'll go into a bit of a backstory as well.
Sure. Well, right now I'm not supposed to be working. I'm having a year off. But, it's I think this is the interesting thing. What I'm doing now, I don't really see it as work. In saying that, I haven't really ever seen any business or job I've had. So yeah, I guess I've just probably, safe to say, fallen into becoming a business strategist. So just because I've had a love and passion for building businesses up myself personally and with my husband, um, I've wound a lot of that up. As you know, Matt, I got burnout. So I wound a lot of that up when I got burnout. And so now I help other people, I guess, do the same, but without burnout. I'm very conscious of that. When I see that those habits coming in, I'm like, oh, I can identify with that.
Yeah.
So pretty quick to jump on that. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I'm currently a business strategist, and I help other people in their businesses.
Helping other people achieve their dreams through their own businesses. Yeah. And with the burnout, I mean, I can imagine, and you see it all the time. People feel like the busier they are, they feel like they need to be busy in order to be successful. But leads that, go.
Yeah, there's so many layers to it. Like I spent a lot of time when I had chronic fatigue, a lot of time in bed, 14 to 9 months as soon as I was legally allowed to work. And I was working about 20 hours a week at McDonald's, which I loved, by the way. Oh, did you? You're a Macca's guy.
Yep.
You learn the best knowledge when you work at McDonald's, about systems and processes and customer service and working under pressure. Yeah. Anyway, so I think that being your first job too kind of sets you up a little bit for, how you show up in other jobs. Yeah. So I worked about 20 hours a week while I was going through school. And then, so when I went to uni, it was like just a natural progression. I was at uni full time, but then I was working predominantly full time as well. So I kind of carried this theme of just getting used to always being on the go. Yeah. And especially my mum, she was like a really hard worker, worked early mornings, late nights. And so it was kind of just normal for me. And so when I started, when my husband and I started our business, it didn't seem unusual to me to be working 60, 70, 80 hours sometimes a week, because I just, was happy doing it, enjoyed the work. And at that stage, we didn't have any children. And so it's funny. But I had friends, of course, people close to you, they see it from a different perspective. So we often had our friends saying, hey, you guys, you're working too hard, and come out and have some fun, get out on the water with us. And we had one friend in particular who made us get out on weekends, especially on Sunday. And we used to go out wakeboarding and jet skiing, wave surfing, wave jumping, and all that sort of stuff. So, so I guess I forget what your original question was, but I'm just answering it with I've just always worked really hard, and then at some point it caught up with me. So
yeah, it's full on. And so when you see other people doing it and it coming through in them with the consultancy that you're doing at the moment, what are some of the things that are other than just putting in the hours? But I think what I'm leaning towards is wanting to know a bit more about the prioritization of tasks.
What are the solutions?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds really funny, in hindsight's a wonderful thing. Like I look back and I go, wow, Matt and I could have just hired a manager and probably worked 30, 40 hours a week. But I think when you're in the thick of it and you're doing, those things aren't always obvious. So sometimes that's a really obvious solution, is looking at a business and going, okay, well, the business is thriving, you're thriving, but probably your balance might be a little bit out of place. Well, what stuff can we delegate, outsource? Do we need to put a manager in to look after certain aspects? Or even just the basics of, do you have a bookkeeper? Do you have an accountant? Outsourcing some of those basic things that can get you your time back. So we had done all that. Like we actually have an outsourcing company, so we're big on outsourcing. But it was probably the management piece. We needed more help in the management piece. But I think for each individual and each individual business, it's a different solution.
Yeah, of course. I think what I see as well, and what I hear a lot of, is people unwilling or just uncomfortable in giving up that power or control. Yeah.
I'm a control freak. I
Yeah.
identify with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you
Um,
overcome that?
well, I got burnout. So
So
no,
basically forced.
do you know what? Our team, we have had the privilege of working with the most incredible individuals. And this is the funny thing. Usually the people in your business are so capable.
Yeah.
It's us that has the issue with, handing stuff over. And I think I try to work out where that comes from. And again, it's different for everyone. So for Matt and I, it was, when we first started the business financially, it was so stressful. And, we had so many outgoings going out. It was like, if we didn't make this a success, we were going to lose
Yeah.
everything we had at the
Are we talking about
time.
the franchise, the Mortgage Choice franchise?
And
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So everything we had was essentially in that business. So I think you start to create these patterns of really wanting to hold on tight so you can control everything, so things don't get out of control and you don't, I guess, fail. So
Yeah.
for me, it was the fear of failure. Like, oh, if I give up too much and lose control and get out of touch with stuff, then what's the worst thing that could happen? I could fail, and that's really scary. So, um, yeah, I think the understanding the fears there and addressing those is the first thing, and then you feel more comfortable. But I think when you lose your health, which is really your wealth, like no amount of money and success or anything that you have can be valued the same way as your health. And so when that is thrown in your face, it's like, oh wow, well, all those things. Now I look back and I go, that just wasn't important.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I had to get to that level to really be able to take a good hard look at myself and make those decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I try to help people realize that a bit sooner, and we work through the, well, why do you want to hold on to that? What's the fear, and what can we do to make you feel comfortable about letting go of control of that aspect of the business or whatever it is.
How do you convince people of that? Because it's like it almost reminds me of like natural remedies. It's like take these natural remedies as a preventative as opposed to a cure.
Yeah,
So when people are in the thick of it and it's like, no, this is really what's important right now,
yeah,
convincing them that that thing that they can't even see or feel or touch or smell out in the future is
yeah,
actually what's most important. Like, how do you
yeah.
convince someone of that?
Well, I don't know that I necessarily convince people because they always have the answers. It's holding up the mirror and asking enough questions
Mm-hmm.
that they come to their own realization. Because I think when someone tells you to do something, even though intellectually, or if you're like me, if someone tells me to do something, I'll do the opposite. Like
Yeah.
that, I have a real fear about that.
No,
My
I want
parents
to do
said,
that
"Don't go
too.
and don't go and buy a house at 18. You should be focusing on your uni studies." I'm going to go and do that, and I'm going to show you. So I think, yeah, I'm really careful not to tell people what to do because who am I to tell them what to do as well? Like, we're our own experts. No one understands our situation as intimately as we do ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more holding up the mirror, asking the right questions until they come to a point where they realize what the answer and the solution is. And then they're really aligned with it. Like they're very
Yeah.
invested. It's like the light bulb moment. Oh my God, why did I not see that sooner? And people really do have the answers. It's just that we're so busy and we're so kind of engrossed in what we're doing that we just don't have the time to reflect and see what's really obvious. And I don't know about you, but every time I go on holidays, I come up with the most amazing ideas because I've got the time and the space to think.
Yeah.
And so often people just need time and space to think
Yeah.
to realize what the solution is.
Yeah, absolutely. And even on a small level, like when I'm in the shower or just driving, just doing those
Yeah.
sort of mundane tasks. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
Those quiet moments. The
Mm.
answers are in those quiet moments.
Yeah.
Meditation, if you
Yeah.
want to go the next step. But yeah, like you don't even have to do that. Walking on the beach and just having some time out.
Just honoring that really, and allowing yourself to have that space in whatever form it is for you that you enjoy. Um, so
Yeah,
so you bought your first house when you're 18. You're studying. You're working your ass off while studying as well. You built your
yeah,
business up just again working your ass off. You and Matt,
yeah,
and all the way to the point where you were being forced out of your house each weekend to go and try and have a break
Yes.
until you basically burnt out and
Yep.
you royally just your body felt it and started to tell you to scream at you to slow down because you weren't slowing down yourself. Yeah,
Correct.
can you yeah, dive into that a little bit for us and share one, I guess, the experience, obviously, but just for those out there that might be doing something similar, the dangers and what that is like, what it was
Yeah,
like.
absolutely. Um, I mean, I've always been into sports and conscious of looking after my body. I've always eaten really well, exercised, and so I guess I don't want to confuse the burnout with not looking after myself from that perspective. But
Mm,
what it was, I guess, that brought me to burnout was the long hours and chronic stress. So
mm,
it's not necessarily food, exercise, or those things contributors. It's often lifestyle, I think, that brings people to burnout. And for me, it was just really unbalanced. And the chronic stress came about just from, I guess just worrying all the time and trying to, run multiple businesses and really stay.
don't think it is. I think no, I don't think it is you. I think it is my side.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
Where did you hear up to?
That it's not because of the food or the way you're looking after your body, but that it was because you were basically stressed running multiple businesses. But I
Yeah,
want to jump in there as well, just to go maybe a level deeper on that stress, because I can imagine people watching this and listening to you saying, "Well, I'm not running multiple businesses. I'm not managing a heap of staff, so
yeah,
I don't have that level of stress." But I'd love you to touch on that because what you said before about it just not mattering compared to the health. But there's
yeah,
people that are in just regular employment or stay at home mums and dads or just doing things, but it's more so touching on the fact that they're stressing about shit that doesn't fucking matter and
yes, yeah,
caring, giving so many fucks about things that don't need to
yeah,
be given, have fucks given about in the grand scheme of
yes.
things. So I'd love for you to elaborate and touch on that.
Yeah, like stress is different to everyone. For me, it was running multiple businesses and a team of people, and trying to relationships and trying to be there for friends as well, and and family and so on and so forth. So life is really complex. So someone else's stress could be something totally different, like relationship breakdowns, family problems,
Yeah.
health issues for other factors. And and I guess everyone's triggers are different, and you can look at it on a broad spectrum of some being really extreme and some being less extreme, but it's all relative to the person,
That's right.
So whatever's going on for them, even if someone else observes that to be insignificant, it can be hugely significant to them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think chronic stress is really toxic for the body. And yeah, like you said, like caring about so many things can just really dampen, I guess, your outlook, your experience in life, and essentially long term really impact your health. So I guess for me, even though I've got a really strong mindset, so it's got to be something really big for me to stress about. I built a really big life, so it was a huge stressor,
Yeah.
which I've now reversed. But for the next person, it could be something totally different. So I think the first thing is looking at what is causing you chronic stress, what is stressing you out, and dealing with those things. So
Yeah.
I remember I was sitting in front of the person that was trying to help me through this, running tests and everything. And he said, "How serious are you about getting better?" And I said, "Well, really serious, And he said, "Well, my recommendation is you sell all your businesses." And I was just like, "Oh, right, okay."
Stressing me
So
out, man.
yeah, that's right. Our cortisol levels just went through the roof. But I drove home and I was like, wow, like, and I sat down with Matt and I said, look, what do you think? And he's like, yeah. think probably that's a good idea. And so then we started on that journey. So, I mean, whatever that trigger is for someone is like, I mean, hopefully you would have someone that you can talk to like that who will hold the mirror up and call you on whatever it is and say, well, what are you going to do about making the change to get rid of that trigger that's causing you chronic stress and impacting, your life. So,
Yeah.
and it's funny for me, I really loved what was stressing me out. So it's complex. It's not always easy. Like you could be in a relationship where you're wildly in love with someone, but it's really toxic maybe. I don't know. It's like the same thing. And there's obviously so many different variations on that.
So how much of it do you think is circumstantial and how much is perception?
Really good question. Do you know what?
Mm.
I think a lot of it is perception. I could have
Agree.
fixed my situation without going to the extreme of selling all of our businesses by looking at it differently and putting some in place that changed the way that it was kind of, impacting my life. Like I said, just putting a manager in.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah.
And how much, looking back as well, do you feel, how attached to an outcome do you have to have been in those moments to feel that stress?
Yeah, I think very attached. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you done work on that, on in and around
Yeah.
attachment to outcomes
Yeah.
as well? Yeah.
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 I think if you're working in any service-based business, you're a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I mean, if a client called me at 10:30 at night, I'd be answering the call
Yeah.
because I want to make sure they're okay and everything's okay, and I want to, So, yeah, I think I've had to do a lot of work on still, I guess, yeah, people pleasing is a really funny thing because I believe in life and in business, the people piece is like everything, strategy, implementation, cash. Yes, they're important mechanisms and they need to be addressed and dealt with, but the people piece is huge. And so it's this really funny little dance that I do with it where, anything I do, I want to show up and be of service and contribute. But I also need to just make sure that I'm not doing it at the expense of not showing up for myself. So that is a constant dance I do. So as you know, I had to cancel our original time slot because I had committed and got myself run down again. So I'm definitely not going to say that I've mastered that. That's a work in progress. But, your question was, what work have I done on it? Well, yeah, I've had to really work on that. And I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Were you very spiritual early on, or because it feels like you've tapped into that world pretty deeply
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, I was. I'm not sure or how that sort of came about, but from a young age, I always was very drawn to, crystals and into all of that sort of stuff that, might be deemed as woo woo.
Only
And
by the unconscious.
yes, yeah. Crystals are amazing things. And I think I went to my first yoga class when I was 14, and I was just like, wow, and it was the meditation piece. And as you know, yoga is the preparation for meditation. So, stimulating all the meridians and the body to get into a space to receive meditation. So, at 14, I discovered meditation, and then that's been a big part of my life since then.
Yeah.
And when I was at uni, I worked at a gym. So I started off teaching some classes, and then I was lucky enough to learn yoga, but gym-based yoga, so not the traditional yoga. But yeah, my love for it just grew. And then I did my formal yoga studies from there. And I've been studying. I've had one foot in each world probably since quite a young age, yeah.
Yeah. And you run your own yoga studio as well. Is that right?
Yeah, crazy. When we started our mortgage choice business, I was really torn because this is the crazy thing I do. I really wanted to have a yoga studio. That was my dream, right? But I also like loved property, and I've always loved math. Like that's my thing. I can't spell to save my life. I'm not shy to say, but I'm slightly dyslexic. So like words are not my thing, but math, like give me a complicated math equation and
Yeah, cool.
I'm fine. So I know my strengths and I play to them. But so I loved the finance side of it, but it was like, oh, but at the same time, I want to have this life with yoga. So I said to Matt, and bless, he's so supportive. Like,
Yeah.
and you know, I am to him as well. Like we've really supported each other in doing whatever crazy things we wanted to do. But
Yeah.
so we started our mortgage choice business and our yoga studio at the same time. And they were 3 doors down from each other. So it was really convenient. I could go down in my lunch break, teach a class, come back to work, and then after work I'd go and teach a class in the evening. So yeah. But anyway, the mortgage choice business took off, and
such such challenges and lows with your health, like that's it's pretty polarizing, the experiences you've gone through.
yeah. And I've actually had really challenging times in business too, not just my health. So
Okay.
I think that's another important thing, is to not, you know, I'm like to really show up authentically and not make out like it's been so awesome, because it hasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I've had huge highs in business and huge lows, you know, devastating lows. So
Can you share
yeah.
then what it takes to
Yeah.
create a long lasting business, like we put the heading, and some of the things that you come across with your consulting, where you just see people just naive to what it actually takes, and some of the
Yeah.
things, whether you use experiences or you know, just leave that in your
Yeah.
thought.
So speaking of naive, I mean, when I started, I was 22. So I was really naive. I mean, I literally grew up in my business. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just like, yeah, I can do this, of course.
Why
And
not?
wow, wow.
Yeah.
um, so, yeah, look, one of the first things I say to everyone is prepare for bad times and you'll only ever see good times. I think that's a really important thing. And so
Prepare
when
for
I
bad
say that,
times
I
and you
mean,
only ever see good times. Okay.
yeah, because at some stage, and not to plant seeds, this doesn't have to be everyone's experience, but from my observation, the majority of us do go through this. We go through the ebbs and flows of success, and then, you know, struggling. You know, businesses very rarely consistently, you know, climb without any contrast or challenges. So, yeah, if you prepare for the bad times, you'll only ever see good times. And when I say that, that's, you know, just, I guess, mentally preparing yourself,
Yeah.
you know, for how you're going to deal with times where it's a challenge, like what support you've got, what are some things that experiences you can draw on to get through those times. Financially preparing. So in business, the majority of the stress is usually probably financial in those early days, and then as a business scales and grows, sometimes it's people. So the growing pains of, you know, trying to get enough staff and then get people trained up. Like there's all sorts of things that can go wrong when you're having huge growth. So yeah, I mean, one of the first things that I talk to people about is, yeah, just talking about what their goals are, their expectations, and then going through, I guess, a list of things to make sure that we're prepared for the future and anything that's coming, so that it's easier to manage. So obviously, I had my business in the middle of the GFC, and most people that had a business during that time were impacted. And that was definitely one of the moments that we hit rock bottom. And I remember being at Christmas with my family down at Bateman's Bay, and just feeling this deep sadness that I couldn't contribute any gifts. And then I remember being, actually it even makes me emotional now, being downstairs, you know, with my dad and just saying, Dad, like, I'm so scared we're not going to be able to pay wages next week, and I literally have no money to buy food. And he gave me $150 for food, and Matt and I, you know, you go to the supermarket, it's like, what can I buy that will last? You know, tuna, rice cakes. Like these are the things that you get faced with, you know, And it's not just people in business. Sometimes people have bad luck. They might lose their job, or there's a marriage breakdown, or whatever. Like, everyone has, I think at some point, some financial struggles. So great, right? So, but we were on a huge growth spurt. So, we were invested in scaling up at the time, and so that blow was really substantial to us. But, we got out the other side because we remained focused, and thankfully we had prepared for bad times. So before it got to that point, we had actually eaten into a big buffer that we had built up. And if we hadn't, we would have gone bankrupt.
Okay, so when you're chatting to new businesses, how much do you lean on the importance of creating that buffer as one of the first priorities?
A lot. Yeah. So talking about the financial strategic aspects of the businesses is one of the very early pieces, because if a business is going to fail, it's usually around running out of cash flow, running out of money, mismanaging money, that type of thing.
Is there a rule of thumb of like 3 months' wages or expenses, or a certain amount that you suggest aiming for as an initial buffer point?
Depending on the business, but if you can get 3 to 6 months operating expenses in account, you're really well set up. But just having a month is, starting point. Yeah. Some businesses never financially build up to 6 months. It would be impossible for them. But just trying to at least get a month is a good idea.
Do you think that's something that is like, if you implemented the habits early on as a foundational practice, that would be the way to go, as opposed to try and catch your tail later?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you read The Barefoot Investor?
Yeah.
Taking that approach, but transferring it to business and tweaking it obviously a bit. That book is phenomenal. If you haven't read it and you're listening, go and read it and implement it. It's a fantastic strategy. So, if you take the similar principles and apply it to business, it's a great move. But you would slightly change it, so building up your buffer account, X amount going to marketing, because a lot of businesses, don't reinvest into client acquisition, marketing, that type of thing, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, cool. And so, what does the next 18 months have in store for you?
Oh, well, yeah, good question. I don't know. These days, I really just, I guess, try to show up and not overcommit. But in the next 18 months, actually, at the moment, I'm putting together an online program. So one thing I've identified doing a lot of the business strategy over these past 18 months is that not everyone can afford to do it. And so an online program that really steps out the processes and the steps that you need to take to build a success. So I'm working on that at the moment, which I'm really excited about. And this is what happens to me. It doesn't feel like work. So I could easily spend 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. So I have to be very disciplined not to do that. But I'm planning on having that finished.
Can I ask with that though? Finish what you're saying.
I was just planning on having it done by February, but don't hold me to it.
Okay, I will hold you to it. But can I ask with that, right? Because that's sort of the circumstantial versus perception side of things. Like, if you're really doing something for 10, because essentially when you wake up, right, you're doing something, whether you're just standing looking at a fucking wall or you're doing something, you're doing something. So is it that you're doing stuff, or is it the fact that you're keeping your mind stimulated? Is it the fact that what you're doing, you're stressing about getting it to a certain point? Or what is it that is actually the stress factor?
Are you talking about me not overcommitting, or are you talking about the?
Yeah, well, basically, I picked up that you don't want to spend too long, like, of a day, because you could spend 10 hours a day doing it. But
right. Yes. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. No, it's more that I think I get really engrossed in stuff and excited about stuff, but then it's at the expense of other stuff. So getting down to the beach and having a swim in the ocean. Spending an hour cooking a meal where I'm really present to the process and not rushing. So if I spend 10 hours doing that, the other aspects of my life get impacted. I'm not as present, and then, it can snowball from there. I guess,
but then physically also get drained because it's not receiving that nutrition and nutrients. Is that sort of what happens?
More that I think when you're not present, when you get into that rushing um, mindset of just getting stuff done,
Mm,
biologically your body changes.
mm,
So for someone that like me who has sensitivities now, as soon as my biology changes, I get tired.
yeah,
So that's my warning sign. It's like if I start to feel lethargic, then the biology's changed.
yeah,
So um, if I was to be really present in my day and conscious of what I'm doing, the best thing I could do is work X amount of hours, say, on my online program,
yeah,
and get down to the beach, and then take the time to really enjoy cooking the meal with my daughter and being really present to her, and then
mm,
not rushing time reading and all those types of things, so that you can hear as I talk about that, probably in my voice, how relaxing that sounds
yeah,
and awesome. Whereas
yeah,
if I'm like, okay, I'm working 10 hours and then,
yeah.
like it changes.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it's more, it changes how you experience life. Well,
Yeah,
me, experience
yeah,
life.
absolutely, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Um, I forgot what I was going to ask. That's all right. I
Was it
love it.
18 months?
18 months. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's it.
That
Yeah,
question. So I'm doing the online program, which
yeah,
we touched on. And then of course I work with my clients as well. So and it's that simple for me right now, which I really, really love.
and the life of your clients or people around the world. Like, what's the one thing that really sparks the passion within inside of you?
Definitely this whole self-employment thing where people are thriving, because it gives people such flexibility. Like I love people realizing their dreams within their business, because usually they're doing the business for a few reasons. One is they're trying to provide something that they're really passionate about, getting to the world, whether it's a service or a product, and impacting the world. And then the benefits that come from that for them, which is usually providing for their family, having flexibility, to do school drop off and pick up, travel, show their children the world, or just themselves go and see the world. So for me, that's what lights me up, is that because I know that if I can do it,
Mm,
anyone can do it. It's just having the right, tools and to get there. So it's that really lights me up, because I feel like, especially on the Sunshine Coast, it's like the capital of small businesses, right?
yeah,
but, but also Australia wide, it's like we do small business so well. And I think Australians are just, very entrepreneurial. Like, and I love it when people just give that a go. And yeah, I love being a part of helping them realize their dreams, or really just like holding up the mirror for them so that
yeah,
they realize their awesomeness.
yeah. Wicked. I was gonna touch on and ask you about. I've just started to read Atomic Habits, the book, which is essentially just creating really small changes but consistency over time, and just
Yeah,
having that compound effect. And um, yeah, I think with what you're talking about as well, it sort of taps into that where people do feel like they need to put 100 hours of their time into that to get something done. But it's like your testament to know, like, take an hour to go and be present cooking a nice meal, go down to the beach and have a walk and spend some time with yourself, with a loved one. Take
yeah,
a short amount of time doing the work that you want to do, and it'll actually be more effective. But can you
yeah.
just, yeah, I guess affirm that if that's how it is, and touch on that a little bit as well?
That's absolutely my experience, and I think your impact is larger when you approach life like that. So I noticed when I was very much in doing, I was having less impact than when I was at home unwell and had very limited hours to do what I needed to do, because we end up just doing meaningless things and filling in time. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, I think the outcomes from paring back how we approach it are far greater. But it takes a lot of discipline if you're someone, that
Yeah.
just gets excited about things and is always on the go. So, and then on the other side, if you're someone that struggles with motivation, you've got the other rub where it's like just getting going is a struggle.
Yeah,
So,
true. Sort of counterintuitive, both sides.
yeah. And trying to find that space in the middle is quite powerful.
I love it. The
Where the
equilibrium.
magic happens. Yes.
Imagine what?
It's where the magic
It's
happens.
where the magic
That
happens.
sweet in the middle.
The
Yeah.
sweet spot. Not
Yeah.
too hot, not too cold, just right.
That's right. Exactly.
Awesome, Linda.
So other people call it in the flow. You know, when you just feel in the flow, when you show up at your desk and you just like, I'm on fire today. I'm just, I'm in flow. It's that feeling. Trying to retain that is the ultimate.
Yes, there's the Genome Project for anyone who wants to get a bit deeper into flow as well. Check out the Genome Project. It's women. It's like if they're not in flow, it could be the difference between life or death, basically. Like big wave
Yes.
riders and huge jumps and
Yeah.
skydivers, and it's like if they don't get their stuff right and they're in the zone, yeah, it can be a big thing. So hacking those instinctive flow states for people that are at a desk doing accounting or mortgage broking or sales or
Yes.
being a
Yeah.
mum.
Yes, extreme sports is a really great way to train your brain to be present and in flow. Yeah, because I love extreme sports.
What do you mean? What do you get up to lately?
Well, when I say extreme sports, I probably should say the milder version, so not base jumping or anything like that.
It's all right.
So we
Miss
grew up
Cecilia
water
for that.
skiing. Yeah. We grew up water skiing, so that's where it all started. And actually, my father's really conservative, and he looks at my brother and I and says, "I don't know how you two ended up so like my brother and I are both really big risk takers,
Yeah,
and it just freaks him out." And I say to him, "Dad, it's because you brought us up doing extreme sports. Like you say, you're not a risk taker, but." When it comes to sport, he is, but he's probably a little bit more conservative in other aspects. But it
yeah.
was like from a young age, Dad had me water skiing when I was 3
Oh wow.
and snow skiing at 3. So,
Cool.
like, my brother and I, our brains were wired to kind of be, pushing ourselves, pushing our bodies, challenging our minds and
Yeah,
stuff. So, and I gave kite surfing a little bit of a go, but I hurt my back, so I can't do that anymore.
that's pretty full on. I did that as well. I almost died a few times. It was really scary.
I ruptured my L5, so I went into very early retirement on kite surfing.
I think it's still. I've still got some more in me. I think I'm going to give it a go because I see every now and again like a tweet with Richard Branson. He pops up like some some kite surfing. I'm
Oh,
like, man, if he can do it, I can do it.
yeah. See, he's always in flow.
Yeah,
It's like he's such a good example how even in business, it's just, do you know how I see business? It's like a canvas.
yeah,
And it's like you're trying to create a masterpiece. You're trying to, when you're trying to paint, and I don't know if you've ever painted, but I like to paint.
yeah,
And trying to paint hands is so hard, but it's like the challenge of trying to get the fingers to look right. Like business is no different. It's just
yeah.
like this huge canvas. You're trying to
Yes.
get it right. And it's like a masterpiece that you're
Quite a few times, especially with like healers, practitioners, artists as well, who are doing their artistry or mastering their craft. But then when it comes to the finance and business side of things, they fall down because they see it not as an art form, but as this rigid bricks and mortar thing they got to do. Where when they start reframing it as a part of their craft and a part of their expression, I think that's
yeah.
such a powerful frame to hold when it comes to business and finance.
Yeah, when you hear people talk about their business, it's usually like my observation is they speaking from a creative mindset about it. Like every now and again, you'll get someone who's just they're focused on the money and that's what it's about, which
Mm,
is very hard to make a successful business when your focus
mm,
is money. Like there's no substance in it, but it's like 99.9% of people are talking about their businesses from this passionate creative space of something that they're wanting to create and master and bring to the world. So yeah, and I the strategy and the finances and those parts that could be viewed as kind of, very mundane and boring, that really is just an extension. Yeah.
Absolutely. It is, isn't it? Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Any last words you'd like to leave people with?
No, just thank you so much for having me on here. It's been great chatting, and
Absolutely.
loving seeing everything you're doing. You're making such a wonderful impact on the world, talking about
Thank
people
you.
making impact. So,
Cheers.
thanks for giving everybody a voice to come and share their passions.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. It's my pleasure.
we do that.
Yeah, it's such a great excuse for me really to connect with people and have such an I mean, just to have an hour conversation here and there with people and get deep and be able to share that with people as well. It's just fantastic. So yeah, I'm really, really grateful for the container that I've created and the opportunities I'm getting to connect with people. It's fantastic.
Very cool.
Cool. All right, Linda, have an awesome day, week, month.
Yes. You too, and we'll chat real soon.
Absolutely. We'll keep you up to speed with the course that's coming out in February.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. It's going to be
Fantastic.
awesome.
And I was just quickly, best place for people to connect with yourself, would that be Facebook or?
Yeah, probably Facebook's easier. Yeah, the best place to find me. Yeah,
Cool. Links in the
yeah.
bio. Guys, thanks for joining us. Linda, absolutely lovely to connect again. We'll speak soon, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Matt. Bye.